Watch how Rep. Bill Keating grabs Pete Hegseth's shiny talking points, rips them to shreds one by one, and lays bare the absolute foreign policy trainwreck Trump's team is barreling toward.
Chair, I recognize the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to take my time to react to the testimony already given. The three pillars that each of the witnesses and the Secretary highlighted. Pillar number one, restore the warrior ethos. You know, I've had the privilege in this committee to see firsthand a special window of our troops, their courage, their tenacity, their commitment. You don't have to restore the warrior ethos, sir. It's already there. We've never lost it. Pillar two, I just want to highlight something that is a concern. Pillar two is the border security issue. And among that, I'm really worried about the agreement with El Salvador that exists. I think it's very cloudy. We don't know exactly what they're getting in return for their commitment to house the hellhole prisons. In the hellhole prisons they have people that are shipped there, transported there illegally. But there's problems with that. It violates the Constitution, number one. It violates the First Step Act that President Trump paraded around and took so much credit for in his first term, he and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. It violates the Leahy Law, which prohibits federal money to be used for prisons of that type. It violates the Foreign Assistance and Transparency and Accountability Act that our Secretary of State was a proud sponsor of, that demands taxpayer accountability for monies, because all we know is the White House has said they've given El Salvador, given their strongman, Bukele, $6 million. But then they're holding another $15 million in international narcotics and control and law enforcement to the side for prospective use here. And of concern, too, is we're now transferring helicopters, military assets, to Bukele. We're giving him helicopters. And I'm concerned about that. Supposedly it's there for humanitarian reasons. It's being taken away from the Drug Control Task Force dealing with the fentanyl issue. And now it's there for humanitarian reasons in Bukele's control. And I'm just worried about going down the road here. I think there should be strict oversight of what they're getting from the U.S. If that's not there and there's dark money and dark assets being passed, we could have the makings of another Iran-Contra. Thirdly, the third pillar, deterrence. And I look to what every expert militarily, from a security standpoint, said is the greatest deterrent that we have with China and Russia, and our greatest weakness if we lose it. And that's the war in Ukraine. If we fail to support Ukraine and Ukraine loses, that's a green light for China. That's just not my opinion. That's virtually every security expert. We have something China and Russia don't have. We have a coalition of 50 countries, 50 dealing together. They don't have anything near that. Yet, you've attacked that alliance. You said they're pathetic. You called them freeloaders. They have paid, and we want more money, and they're giving more money for their own defense, but they've given $199 billion towards Ukraine, more than the U.S., by the way. And they're not freeloaders when they came to our assistance at 9/11. They suffered thousands of casualties, several hundred deaths. They're young men and women sacrificed to defend Article 5, the only time it was exercised for the United States. They're not freeloaders dealing with that. And yet today, you attacked one of them saying that now you've confirmed that the U.S. has plans in place to invade the territory of a founding member of NATO, Denmark. That's not being strength. That's not being strong. It's also chaotic. This is the chaos cabinet when it comes to Ukraine. Secretary of the Treasury, Putin is a war criminal. Trump's chief negotiator, Putin is trustworthy. He's not a bad guy. Secretary of State, Putin was a war criminal, I guess, but now he's not. He doesn't know. Trump says Ukraine was the aggressor. The Secretary of State says Russia was the aggressor. You, sir, the Secretary of Defense, said Russia was the aggressor. The chair of Joint Chiefs said yesterday that Putin would even stop at Ukraine. The Trump ambassador resigned because of this policy. And I think Vice President Vance said it best. He said he doesn't care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other. That is not strength. That is not using our coalition. That is not deterrence. You're wrong on all your pillars. I yield back.
Gentleman yields.
Rep. Bill Keating walked into that hearing with one mission: strip away the hollow slogans and expose the ugly reality hiding under Trump's so-called national security agenda. While the witnesses kept chanting their three big pillars, Keating took them apart methodically, revealing a mess of incompetence, flip-flops, and dangerous entanglements that go way beyond campaign BS. He kicks off with Pillar 1, restoring the warrior ethos. Keating calls bullshit right away. The warrior ethos isn't lost. Anyone who's actually spent time with our troops knows they're as tough and committed as ever. The real problem: leadership that treats them like political props instead of respecting them, protecting them, and giving them what they actually need. Keating says out loud what a lot of folks in uniform already know: the troops aren't the issue. The politicians wrapping their screw-ups in flag-waving rhetoric are. Then he hits Pillar 2, and things get dark fast. Trump's crew is bragging about this shady deal with El Salvador, a regime famous for throwing people into hellhole prisons and authoritarian crackdowns. Keating lays it out. The deal's secretive as hell, and it looks like it breaks a stack of laws: the Constitution, the First Step Act Trump couldn't stop touting, the Leahy Law that stops us from funding abusive foreign forces, even transparency rules pushed by the Secretary of State himself. And the kicker: we're shipping helicopters and gear to a strongman with a brutal track record, all labeled humanitarian use. Keating doesn't mince words. This is exactly how our encounter kicked off: secret cash, secret deals, secret weapons flowing in the shadows because nobody could defend it in the light. Pillar 3, deterrence. This is where Keating lands the hardest punch. He reminds everyone the biggest deterrent to Russia and China right now is Ukraine fighting like hell, backed by a 50-nation coalition that autocrats like Putin, and she can't even dream of matching. But Trump's circle has spent years trashing those allies as deadbeats, weakening the exact partnerships that kept America safe for decades. Keating brings receipts. Our allies have poured more into Ukraine than we have. They stood with us after 9/11. They bled for NATO's collective defense. And now, while they're holding the line against Russian aggression, Trump and his crew insult them, contradict themselves, and openly cozy up to Putin. Then comes a jaw-dropper. A witness casually admits Trump's team has talked about invading Denmark, an actual founding NATO member. That's not strategy, that's chaos. That's telling every ally the rules America used to champion don't mean jack in a second Trump term. Keating wraps it up with a gut punch. This isn't deterrence or strength, it's pure disorder. A cabinet where the Treasury Secretary calls Putin a war criminal, Trump's negotiator calls him a good guy, the Secretary of State can't keep his story straight, and Trump himself paints Ukraine as the aggressor. No coherence, no principles, no plan, just fear, confusion, and contradiction. Keating nails the core truth: you can't defend democracy abroad while torching alliances at home. You can't preach strength while kissing up to dictators. You can't claim deterrence while broadcasting total disarray to friends and enemies alike. This isn't abstract policy wonk stuff. It hits military families, global stability, and America's word around the world. If we swap real strategy for this chaos, the fallout won't be theoretical. It'll be brutal, and it'll hit everywhere. If you give a damn about global stability, the rule of law, and a foreign policy grounded in reality, not empty tough guy slogans, this is the wake-up call. Share it, talk about it, speak out. Understanding the stakes is step 1. Holding them accountable is step 2.